Uh, as I said, sir,
Yeah,
Vision India 75, Professor K.V. Thomas, former Union
yeah.
Minister, Government of India in the Food and Distribution Department. And sir, this is a pleasure to welcome you again to Vision India 75. Vision India 75 is
Thank you,
show which
thank you,
basically
thank
now documents the 500 top leaders who speak on their subject of expertise and which is aligned to the national relevance and of perennial importance to the country's next 25 years going forward, here from the 75th year of independence up to the 2047, wherein probably we will be celebrating India as the numero uno superpower in the 100th year of independence. Professor K.V. Thomas, you are as
you.
familiar with the Food Security Act of 2013 as fish to water. Wade us through these troubled waters that you went through to make this, reach the tides and the shores, and something which has led to the nations, poor, not sleeping anymore, hungry thereafter. Professor K.V. Thomas, it's a pleasure, sir. Over to you. Food security and the relevance going forward.
I'm happy to meet in good relationship when I was in Delhi for more than 40 years. We are now 75 years old. One of the things, and people who are clear with the political changes in the country. I came to Delhi as a member of parliament in 1984 when I was 36 years old. And it was in 2013, the famous food security bill was passed both in the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha unanimously. All political parties supported. It was the election manifesto of the UPA government in 2009. Food will be a, something of a new right. With this motive in front, and that too in the initiative taken by Madam Sonia Gandhi. In 2010, after I became the union minister, in 2010, I was made the food minister having an independent. My prime responsibility was to introduce the food security bill and get it passed in the parliament. That time we felt slightly pained and ashamed because if you take the hunger index at that time and that too now also, we are at the top. That is the lowest top. We were at that time we were about 93, 94. And now we are in the index 101. So that was something, a country like ours, where we and so this was taken as a challenge. The first initiative was to increase the production. Once you introduce the food security bill, it becomes a law and people are legally entitled. If you cannot provide the food grains that is entitled to them, then you have to give them financial compensation. So our first aim was how to improve our food production. When I took charge as the Minister for Food, the Agriculture Minister was a very veteran leader like Sharad Pawar. So we went together uh, to take steps so that food production increases. And Look East was one of the programs. West Bengal, they started using more food grains, especially rice. Then our aim was whatever you produce has to be purchased. It has to be safely stored. And the Food Corporation of India is the major agency which collects the food grains from the farmers at a reasonable price. For that, we had this minimum support price. It was at that time Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, the veteran in the agricultural world. The farmers should get reasonable price. What is the reasonable price? Production cost plus 50%. That should be available to them. Second, they should have the freedom to give their food grains to, especially to the FCI through the uh, through the agencies, different agencies which are functioning, and that too through the APMCs. APMC had its own defects. Some defects are there, but APMCs were able to give them guarantees that whatever they produced over by different agencies at a reasonable price. Then we decided the distribution system should improve. That time, it was the grains were given to the states. States distributed through the public distribution system, and that was not a foolproof system. So, a lot of food grains, which cost very high price, were given to people who were not eligible for this. So we started the digitalization. We started the smart cards. We thought of start computerization. So that way we improved the system. Then the law was passed. The law was 70% of the people of this country were entitled for food grains at a particular quantity for everybody at a subsidized, highly subsidized price. For example, the BPL, the families which belong to the BPL, they were eligible for rice at the rate of 3 rupees per kilogram. And so there was a, yeah. So we started this process moving slowly fast. And when this bill came to the parliament, discussions were held by the state government, the different political parties. And in 2013, when this was passed, in December, when it was passed, it was discussed for 14 hours, both in the Lok Sabha, in the Rajya Sabha. And I still remember the day when the discussion started. It was Madam Sonia Gandhi who initiated the discussion. And after speaking in the parliament, he had a high fever. He was taken to the hospital. And even from the hospital, she was making calls how this is going progress. And it was because of her support. I still remember with her support and then Dr. Manmohan Singh's support, this became a reality. Then we started moving to the states to how this will be implemented very effectively. One of the major issue was the storage. When I took charge in 2010 as independent charge, we have got a capacity of 15 million tons storage capacity. From that, we brought it up to 100 million tons. That was a big achievement. And even this pandemic, Corona pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic time, we find the food production satisfactory. Even when the farmers are on agitation, I'm very sorry that our farmers, who are the backbone of our industry, our economy, they are in the streets. Government has to find a solution so that a reasonable settlement is made at the earliest, so that our food grain production goes without any hindrance. After passing the bill in 2013, myself and Dr. M.S. Swaminathan were taken to FAO in Rome. And one of the assurances or one of the promises we had to make to the FAO was that India will never import food grains from outside India, but we will export. Fortunately, in the present situation, we can export food grains. Just like the Green Revolution, we had the White Revolution. And White Revolution also created a lot of production, increase in production of food items like milk, egg, etc. So this security bill is one which was a landmark, but we had to go ahead. Further, we had to go ahead because the population is going up. When we passed the bill in the parliament, the population was about 130, 132. Now it has gone about 140. But the distribution system is slowly getting strengthened. And the leakages which we had in the beginning has been slowly plugged. So I feel happy that even during this period of pandemic, the people are entitled for the food. We decided who should lead the family, who should get this food grains. So it was suggested the mother is the head of the family, and the mother, her submission will be taken for providing food grains to the family, not only in the villages where they stay, wherever they go in India, from in any part of the country, these food grains are available to them. Similarly, for the pregnant woman, the mothers, the newborn children, all of them were entitled a certain quantity of food grains according to the need of these people. So I think this is a revolutionary decision we have taken, and after going to FAO, we went to the meet the then Pope, and the Pope also congratulated them, both of us. It's a very big achievement of India. So as an Indian citizen in St. Peter's Basilica, I felt so happy that we have been the country. India has been congratulated by the Pope, the Holy Father of the Catholic Church, and all over the world. Even many of the African countries called me to their places and how to implement such a wonderful legislation so that people get their food, daily food. They are not starving. And for that, we have to take a large number of steps. We have to improve the production, we have to improve the storage, the distribution system has to be improved. So overall development was a must for the successful implementation of the food security net.
Dr. Thomas, can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah,
What
I
were
can hear you.
the major, as far as you remember, what were the major points of opposition that you faced from the opposition during that time when there was this bill being tabled in the Houses of Parliament?
The opposition was not political. The opposition was even within the cabinet. I don't want to mention the ministers who opposed it. One opposition was the uh, the subsidy that is involved was to the tune of 1.25 lakh crores. They asked how you will face it. Then the food grains that we have to keep for 3 months consecutively, even if there is a drought or calamity, was also about 150 million tons. So how is it possible? So we assured that if the production we can improve, and naturally we have to improve our production. We cannot import food grains from outside. We have to produce in India itself. So that is our challenge, and we have to face that. So we said the food production, whether the food security bill is there or not, is something that the country has to move forward. That is why we have the look at East program we have introduced, a new technologies were introduced, and also all the states accepted these challenges and our food production increased. Similarly, we said this 1.25 lakh crores, 1.25 lakh crores, 1.25 lakh crores, which we have spent as subsidiary, is something for the people of this country, the people who are starving, and we are ashamed that in the starvation index we are so below, and we are below that many of the African countries. From that we have to get up, we have to move forward, and I think whom we are serving, the pregnant woman, the mothers, the children, the aged people. Are they not entitled for the for their livelihood, for their food? So this is what we argued. Political like entitled, but then we said, looking at the financial challenge we have got, looking at the production we have to face and distribution, and there are people who are eligible. We are not denying the food grains to anybody in the country. Only thing is 73% will get the subsidized food. The remaining people will get food grains, but at the age we can afford.
Another, another issue that we keep hearing is that the schemes like the midday meal scheme or the integrated child development services ICDS schemes, the PDS, since the DBT was just evolving at that time, and there was a huge scope or huge opportunity for the middlemen corruptions, and kind of final kind of a pilferage of the real nucleus of the scheme. That is something which the opposition was trying to harp upon. And this is not about the opposition, but what do you have to say about it?
Oh, see, there was pilferage there. And the FCI, which was the major collecting agency as well as distributing agency, there was about 3.5% of the damages caused during the collection and distribution. But you brought it down by 1%. It was something, a big achievement of the FCI. Similarly, when this, biometric system was introduced, and we used the modern technology in computerization, etc., and we helped the state to go for computerization. We found that the people who are deserving, who are eligible, they only get the subsidy. Others, but the level in the
Any areas that you would like to suggest to the current NDA-led government under Mr. Prime Minister Narendra Modi for carrying forward this wonderful act that you initiated, that you brought it to its final conclusion to really be helpful, because we have seen a lot of failures from the public distribution system aspects, a lot of farmer issues, MRP issues, procurement price issues, farmer-led agitations, huge problems with since December last year, and the protests are now reaching at the state levels now. What would you suggest to the current government to make this a wholesome kind of a approach, rather than a political agenda for each of the
my food security should not be looked at a political angle. It is the need of the people. It is the promise given not by the country, but even during the independence time, the father of the nation has given the promise. Now, what we have to do? One, there is a move which I hear in Delhi that FCI will be disbanded. I request you don't do it, because FCI is the agency, even though sometimes this considered as a vital offense, which guarantees minimum support price to the farmers. No other agency can guarantee that. If you give it to the private people, after some time, they will pressurize the farmers and price will come down. So FCI is the government agency which can purchase whatever the farmers, the guaranteed will be purchased at the reasonable MSP price declared by the government. Second is the storage. Our storage silos and other godowns, so that we need not import food grain. So our production should enhance. Second, the distribution system should be leak proof, and so that all the modern mechanisms have to be made use of. And this APMC Act also, even though there are some little lacunas here, it is one of the agencies, one of the systems which guarantees a reasonable price to the farmers. And when you look at the Indian farmers, you have to worship them. That is what Lal Bahadur, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. You know what these farmers are? 90% of the people in the country are farmers. After that 90%, 80% of the farmers who have got less than 2.5 hectares of land. So it is a daily life. So they have to live on this small portion of land which they have got. So we have to, then sometimes the price of the fertilizers go up. Sometimes there won't be anybody to purchase the products they produce, rice, wheat, etc. We hear from some part of the country, a particular time, when the harvest is at the highest level, the price fall down. Nobody is to take even at the best price. So we should be with the farmers. This country depends on the farmers. I mean, even during the one thing which brought to my attention when I went to Delhi was, even when they're agitating in Delhi, they are producing more in the fields. So they produce more in the field, then come for agitation. My request to the Honorable Prime Minister and the country is, please take all the steps so this agitation is over, and let them bring them to have discussions, so that these are the people. Actually, what Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said, these are the modern temples. We should remember 1947 when we got independence. For the 40 crores of the people at that time, enough food grains. We had to get the rice from Burma. We had to get from America. At age we have grown up. That is something we should be proud of. So I think whatever our states like Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, whoever have, they have seen that food is available to the people, shelter is available to the people, education is available to the people. So these are some of the pillars of democracy which will decide the strength of the nation.
India's godowns are now overflowing with surplus food. The FCI godowns are all, surplus with the unutilized kind of stocks of cereals and food grains. I mean, do you think that India should, gear up its import policies in some better manner, so that this kind of pilferage and the cost of, stock goes down, and the Food Security Acts, the soul of the Food Securities Act, is not diluted, especially we are still not out of the pandemic arena.
See, we are facing a pandemic which we have never seen. So our first attempt is to guarantee food to everybody in the country. We should also understand in 2020, when at the March, when the entire nation was stopped, then people were in a very bad situation. So they were moving from one place to another. We see that the human movement, people who are moving away from places. So that is slowly coming down. The pandemic is slowly, we are coming under control. So we should say whatever food grains we have got, even the surplus which is in the FCI, should be made available to the people first. There is unemployment. We see unemployment is also going up because of the pandemic. There is nowhere to get job. So after looking into all these things and giving food to everybody, there is surplus food grains with us, either the FCI or the private godowns. Okay, we can export, but we should keep it in mind. It is our people who should get the food first, and then only outside.
Kind of, subsidy over subsidy issues that were raised by the people, subsidy over subsidy. This was a double burden, double whammy. Like fertilizers usually subsidized, foods usually subsidized. What did you have to say to that?
See, food has to be given subsidized to the people who are below the poverty level. But we are very clearly stated, and the planning commission, using the formula, have got decided who are the people below the poverty line. So they should be given subsidized food. Those who are APL above the poverty line, they should be given food grains at the price in which they are being purchased and stored. So that's the market, below the market price. So this is something which we have to guarantee to the people, because even now, as I said in the very beginning, the poverty level, we are very, very below. Even below that, many of our neighboring countries like Pakistan or Sri Lanka.
Do you think that the current government has been able to really carry forward the legacy of the act in a constructive and more productive manner?
Actually, Food Security Act is the joint venture of both the state government and the central government. Central government has to see that production takes place. Then food grains are being collected, distributed. And the state should see that it is given to the people, the deserving people at the price that has been fixed. So both the states and the center have to go together. And we should understand in this pandemic, when unemployment is at the highest, people are starving. And in my place like Kochi, we have got the midday meal for 10 rupees. So people are coming there, taking the food. So there is actually the scarcity of food, not because the food grains are not available, because there is no employment, there is no income. So there are hundreds of people because of this pandemic lost their employment. So their case we have to take, their life, daily life, we have to take care of, and their issues have to be resolved, and then only we think of exporting if there is excess food grain abroad.
Professor Thomas, one final request to you. What are the three suggestions to the current government for ensuring that the food alignment from the agriculturing from the farming community to the real needy, the BPL, the people below the poverty line, is something which is completely spick and span, without any iota of corruption and without any such pilferages that we have been witness to over the last 7-8 years.
Mr. Goenka, as an Indian, I feel proud because 75 years ago, when we got independence, it was from South, import all food grains, food material from abroad. From that stage, we have gone up, thanks to the farmers, thanks to the planning made by people, great leaders like Pandit Jawaharlal. What we have to do? We have to improve the production. We have seen the Bengal famine, where hundreds of people died because of the scarcity of food. Now, fortunately, our farmers have risen up. Our scientists have made a great contribution, like Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, and food production has gone up. Our green revolution and white revolution is something all the world is looking at it. But how this will be helpful to our people? Pandemic is something that happened. I don't blame anybody. But in the time of pandemic also, we should have planned little in advance, because this pandemic started in 2019, end in China. In the beginning of 2020, we were little not worried about it. So, but it came to it. It was a big challenge. And in that challenge, what suffered was the working class. They didn't have any employment. So now our first responsibility is to see that the production of food grains goes on. So call the farmers, settle their issues. Second is, let this distribution system become leak-proof. We have got modern technologies, and modern technologies have to be used so that the Indian, wherever he is, he can have the deserving food grain. So these are some of the issues which we have to carry with a committed mind.
Finally, any closing remarks on the farmer loan waivers?
Definitely. We have to, the time has come. The middle level farmers, the lower level farmers, they are in great trouble. So wherever there are genuine problems, which we have to leave to the state government, the farmers' loans have to be written off, and see that the production enhances. So I think we have seen that there is a financial crisis in the country because of the pandemic. But we have to save first the farmers, and first if you save the farmers, you are saving the country. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan slogan given by Lal Bahadur Shastri, something should be when we take important decisions.
Professor Thomas, it was a lovely interaction with you. In fact, you are an institution in yourself, a person which the country we should be proud of, having brought this amazing landmark act into force, which has served the
So Priyanka,
which has really served the farmers, the poor in this country for many years now. And going forward in the next 25 years, I'm sure there will be a lot of improvements, because we are just 8 years into the act. There will be a lot of improvements. Probably this was one reason why India could tide over the pandemic, which has shaken most of the developed countries as well. Thank you so much, Professor Thomas. It was a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.